struggle to get their online business off the ground because they aren't sure where to start. This is a common problem that can easily be solved if you have the right steps. Now, I'm Joyce Layman, and I help coaches, consultants, and creatives leverage their unique message and manage their mindset so they can stand out online, sell more services, and make a bigger impact without the overwhelm. In today's video, I'm going to give you the 3 main foundations that you need to have in place to set your business up for online success. And if you've been part of any of my lives or replays, you know that I run through a lot of information in the short amount of time. So drop the word foundations in the chat, and I will be happy to send the show notes your way. So that being said, if the thought of spending any money on your business is unsettling, I totally get that. And that's why this episode is for you. Starting a business can be expensive. I understand. And even if you've done what so many others have done, and you've shifted more of an in-person model or a local to a national model, especially right now with talks of the economy and everything that's going on, you may be wondering, where do I start? What do I do next? And how do I not make mistakes? I understand because I was there. Now, in 2008, when I started my business, I'd been working for a training company and I wanted to start doing my own training and keynotes. So 2008 was, of course, during a recession, and I was hesitant to spend money on anything. It was scary. But with that, I picked up my credit card. I hired a company to build me a website and to also do a video shoot because I needed a video promo as an aspiring keynote speaker. And I spent over $13,000. Was it a mistake? Absolutely. Did I need the website? Did I need the video? Yes. But what I didn't realize is there were other ways to accomplish this for far less money. The other thing was, as soon as it was done, even though it had the latest and greatest, like I was the video host and, all the things, people were not spending any time on the website because I didn't have my foundations in place. I hadn't gone through the work to do what I needed to do. And then, of course, I've tweaked and made changes ever since then. So I couldn't afford it. It wasn't the right place to spend money, but I did it. And that's the thing. When you are willing to invest in your business foundations, there are things that will absolutely shift when you do. Investing makes you pay attention. It truly makes you pay attention because you want to make sure the money or time or both that you're investing is well worth it. It also makes you commit harder and you tend to work more effectively in the process because there's nothing worse than spending money on something and getting absolutely nothing out of it. Investing, despite not feeling, like you have a full-fledged business or feeling like you're struggling in the process, investing makes you feel like a business owner, even in the midst of going through all of that. But not all business investments to create your foundation are created equal. So I know you want to do your business the right way. You've most likely gone to either a CPA or a business attorney to make sure that you've got your business entity set up. And I would imagine that you've also decided which platform you're going to use to create invoices and take payments. Critical things that you need to have. It's the other things where you can feel like you're spending a lot of time, but you're not getting a whole lot back. So with that, then your next steps, if you're not clear, then you start, the very first one is clarity. Now, it's interesting because I was talking to a woman and she had numerous initials after her name. She was shifting her consulting business, going into an online model. And what she wanted to do was go through another accredited program. Are you kidding me? that's where I see it's like so many think that you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to have all these things in place before you actually launch. And what you're doing is you're wasting time, you're wasting money because you have the experience that you need right now. To tell on myself, I didn't go to college. I was bullied in high school. The last thing I wanted was to repeat that in college. And I had ended up working multiple part-time jobs in high school because I had enough credits that I could go to school half a day my senior year and then work the rest of the day. And it was one of those things of, I work with CEOs. I work with managing partners of companies. I have presented to executive MBA students. I've written a couple of books. So I don't want you to think that I have to go get this or I have to have these coaching credentials to do what it is I'm going to do. The majority of the time, your ideal client looks like you about 5 years ago. In consulting, it might be a little different, but you have that experience. So if you start thinking you need another credential, then that's fake progress. It has nothing to do with actually generating income. So when I talk about a foundation, you do want clarity. You want to make sure that you know who your target audience is, who that ideal client is for you. What are their biggest problems that you know, and then what are the biggest problems that they think that they have, because those are two very different things when you're crafting content and you're generating offers and all of that. But part of it is that think about what is that unseen need, that gap that's in the industry that nobody else seems to be filling. Part of this is instead of being the same fish and everybody looks like the same fish in the pond. It's how do you be a very unique fish in the pond versus trying to get everybody out there that has two legs that might fit your demographics and not necessarily your psychographics of that profile, but you're willing to sell to anybody and everybody just to get revenue. It is going to be a harder struggle to do that than getting very clear, like I said, on who your ideal client is, their pain points, and what does a solution look like to them. Those are the places you need to start with your foundation. So, as I said, figuring out what makes you different from everybody else that's selling the same thing that you sell. I know for me, my unique expertise is I started off with performance mindset. I used to do keynotes. I wrote a book on comfort zones. I spoke at TEDx on comfort zones. That was my training from 2005. But then over the course of building my business, that's when I had to learn about social media and funnels and lead magnets and all the tech things and how to sell online and, all of that stuff. There are some amazing coaches that focus on mindset, not law of attraction. I'm talking about actual science, how the brain works. And there are also some amazing coaches that do marketing and branding and sales and all of that. But very few people have the expertise in both mindset and marketing. So that's what makes me unique. So with that, I want you to think about what makes you unique in your space. What is that secret sauce? What are that combination of experience and expertise that not everybody has that you do? Yes, this takes time for you to figure out, but when you're creating your business foundations, it's an absolute must. Now, the caveat, will you tweak it over time? Absolutely. As I said, in 2008, when I launched, everything was focused around mindset. And then over time, it shifted. In fact, I even wrote a book on how to create strategic connections, how to build a brand and create strategic connections, because that got in the flow. And that was how I was building my business. So do I talk on networking exclusively? No. Do people still hire me because I have been known as a networking expert? Yes. But my meat and potatoes is mindset and marketing. That's where I'm at. So think about your unique stuff. All right. Without clarity, what's going to happen is anything you spend your money on, there's a good chance it's going to be a waste of money, and it's also going to be a waste of time. Ask me how I know. Been there, done that. So that is your first foundation that you want to get in place. All right. Foundation number 2 is your online presence. All too often, I see individuals, they start going out and trying to sell something. They start marketing things on social media, but they haven't gotten truly clear. So with your online presence, yes, you can spend a fortune like I did on a website and all of that, but you don't need to. Today's world has shifted exponentially. Back in 2008, social media was not a thing. People weren't looking at social media like they do now to build their business. So with that, the free version is get your social media profiles set up. That means you got to go back to step one of your business foundation, figure out who your clients are, and then get your social media bios set up and make sure that the content that you're creating has messaging to attract them so they can recognize what that looks like. Now, the next step, this is a mistake I see far too many, in fact, 100% of my clients have done this, is they have a crappy website or they have no website. They wanted to throw something up quickly, or like me, they invested too much money with somebody who was a good website developer, but they didn't understand the model of how you need to position yourself and how your message comes across online, which means a lot of money in the wrong spots. So if you have a small budget, there are great ways to do this. So as I said, free, get your social profiles set up. By the way, I have my favorite bio hack, which I'm happy to share. You just need to comment in the chat with bio hack, and I will send it your way. There's actually two different things that you can do. But part of it is the second step is if you want a website, and I would highly, highly suggest a website, because if somebody's Googling you, then they want to see that you have that expertise. So yes, you can drive to social. You don't have to have a full-on website, but you need to have a website that's got a few pages on it. So with that, your foundation, you should be investing in either a great WordPress theme or a Squarespace theme. That small investment to buy a theme is visually going to make everything look so much better than trying to piecemeal a website together. The second thing that you need to be focusing on is great copy. So with that, then hiring a copy editor, and you don't have to have them write everything from scratch. One of the things I like to do with my clients is I have them write out what they think. And I've got two different copy editors that I have worked with forever and a day, and I recommend all my clients to. They know how to polish it up so the messaging makes sense. As far as a story brand, you've got that unique message on your website and how to lead somebody through a potential journey. So there are ways to do that without spending not even $13,000, even, 2 or 3,000. You can do it for less than $1,000. Depending on your budget, that might sound like, way too much money, but you can even do things for less. I did tell you though, when you don't have clarity, and even if you have a very simple one-page website, if it's not done well, I guarantee you will miss opportunities. So with that second foundation is getting your online presence, getting that done. You never know when somebody's going to find you. Even your personal Facebook page should be ready for opportunities, and there are ways to do it that you aren't coming across salesy. Okay? So your third foundation, this is so important, and this is where I see so much time being wasted having to reinvent the wheel, is processes. Now, if you're thinking, I'm not organized, I have no idea what I'm doing, then that is a mental block that is going to make you creatively avoid doing this, but I guarantee it's going to cost you far more time in the long run if you don't start at the beginning mapping out processes. Another lesson I had to learn, but now I know differently. So with that is think about, as you're going through your workday, the action items that you need to be focusing on. For example, content creation is a process. So is it something where where's my phone? You're zipping over to your phone and you're like, oh, that looks good. We'll just post that. That is not a content strategy, and there is no process behind it. That is throwing something at the wall and hoping it'll stick. If you did business foundation, number one, you got clarity, you understand your messaging. And number two, you've really gotten clear on what you're going to be promoting, then creating content is going to be easier. But with that, say, for example, you're going to say, okay, so step number one with content, you're going to write down what your topic is. You're going to figure out what your content pillars are. By the way, you should have content pillars. That's that natural framework you take your clients through. You're also going to understand beliefs that your target audience has, and then writing content based on beliefs, which the benefit, you are busting or squishing objections in advance. But that's part of your content strategy. So when you think about processes, and you notice I'm using a lot of B's, could be brainstorming. You're going to brainstorm your topics for the month. You're going to spend an hour mapping out what you need to do based on your content strategy, or based on a free workshop, or based on a new offer that's coming up, or whatever that is. But that's going to be the first part. Then the second part of a process is you're going to get the copy written. So get the copy done. Third step, you're going to go into Canva and create images. By the way, if you have templates already created in Canva, yeah, it takes a minute to set up, but guess what? They have thousands and thousands of options. Once that's done, it becomes easier to create your content process. The other thing that you remember with your processes is, as you continue to grow your business, there are going to be things that you are going to totally feel like you're sticking a needle in your eye and you don't want to do. So with processes, when you know what it is and you're writing these things down, then it helps you to realize, hey, this is where I could potentially hire somebody to help me. And this is how I would onboard them, because these are the tasks that they need to do on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever it is. So that's why when you start mapping out your processes, it's going to make it so much easier. Simple, simple, simple. You go into Google Drive. I'm all about how do you back up online to make sure that your things are saved, everything's good. So go into Google Drive, create a sheet, and it's going to be your process sheet. So say, for example, and you can have multiple sheets and processes. So the first one, you're going to do social media. And if you're like, I have no idea what to do, then title it social media at the top. That's all you're going to do. But then start putting the steps down of everything that you do to create your social media content, whether it's for a week or a month. And then go on to the next sheet. So maybe you have a free workshop that you're going to offer. So what are the processes that are involved in that? So for example, you got to have a timeline. You're going to do a free workshop and it's going to be 60 days out. I would strongly dissuade you from, hey, I'm going to do a free workshop in 2 days, because you want time to promote it. So with that, it's, what are your social posts going to be? Do you have a workbook? Do you have an email series? Do you have a landing page? It's all those things that go into your workshop. Once you have them in your Google Sheet, then you can go, okay, so here's the date, right? Here's your finish date. You put it at the top, and then you reverse engineer it backwards until you get down to that very first tiny little step that you need to do. What's the second step? What's the third step? The timelines. A workshop is much more critical than your social media content. Although, for example, like with me, I go live pretty much every Tuesday, unless I'm ill or out of town, something's going on, which means I have to have my video script written, which turns into a blog post, which turns into show notes, which turns into content. So there's always that flow in the midst of doing that. Once you start to map out processes, it's so much easier. In fact, I just hired a YouTube expert this week to help me grow my YouTube channel, because the last thing I want to be doing is figuring out SEO, keywords, and how to monetize the channel. So I still had to have some things mapped out. I still needed to say, this is the content that I have. These are the things that I want you to do. What else do I need to know? That is a great question to ask, by the way. What else is it that I need to know? And then how do we get started, with those hours? So that's why processes are so important. They're going to help you streamline your time. They're going to help you figure out your gaps and then have an onboarding process. So with that, another area that you're going to want to invest in is specialized training. So once you get up, you've got your business going, you're actually generating some revenue. Is it the ideal revenue that you want for the year? Not necessarily, because there may be something that you need support on, that you need to learn right now. And you don't want to have to DIY it. You don't want to have to go out and watch YouTube videos and hope that something might work. So that's where investing in specialized training can be a huge benefit for your business foundations. Yes, that is a monetary thing, but that investment is totally worth it in the process. But as I said, you've got to have the clarity. You've got to have that clarity there. You've got to have your offers. You've got to know what you're doing before you go do this, or else you're going to constantly feel like you're scrambling to catch up. So make sure that you have that ready to go. All right. So with that, you will be making investments in your business as you continue to grow. I've heard stats, everything from where you might be investing 50% back, whether it's marketing, it's having freelancers, whoever that might be. At the very beginning, there are ways to do this with your foundations that are probably going to cost you more time than money, but time is money. In essence, it's still there. So the big thing is you want to make sure that investing in your foundations, that you get your money back. And amazing things are possible when you take time to do the work on the foundation of your business, because it's going to build a more solid and sustainable business in the future. So with that, here is your recap. So the first thing that you want to invest in is, number one, for your business foundations, is clarity. You always invest in clarity. As I said, it's getting your ideal client. It's doing research. It's having market research interviews, actually going through the interview process. So you know exactly what that gap is, what their best solution is, and how you can differentiate yourself in a very crowded online space. It is possible to do that, but it takes work to get clarity. Then foundation number two is your online presence. It's so important. Stats show that people make a split-second decision when they view your website or a social media platform. They make a split-second decision about your credibility. So that's why before you market anything, you need to make sure that that online presence is intact. Go back to your personal Facebook page. Make sure your Instagram is set up either as a creator or a business account. If you're on Pinterest, if you're on TikTok, wherever it is, but you've got to know what channels you're going to be on and make sure that your bios are extremely strong and that presence looks great. In fact, I just did a reel last week that was talking about, because I was detailing a black car in the driveway, and from a distance, black cars look gorgeous. And then when you get up close, you can see every speck of dirt on them. It's the same thing with your social media bios. So make sure that that foundation of getting your online presence is in place. And then a good basic website with great copy is going to make all the difference. For me, I could have spent a couple of $1,000s at the beginning, had everything set up, and been farther ahead than what I did going all in with that group. Your third foundation is processes. This is, like I said, going to save you a ton of time in the long run. It takes a little bit of time to get it set up, but it's no different than writing it in a journal. Please do this online. I can't tell you. I had a client, we literally spent hours mapping out her year-long content strategy. She wrote it on a notebook and then lost the notebook. So hours worth of work went down the drain and she could never find it. That's crazy. That's why I said always do this online to make sure that you're saving yourself time. But map out processes, create different sheets in a Google Sheet, and then that way you can go in and simply update them, rearrange them, whatever you need to do. But part of it is getting all the steps down and then reverse engineering the process. Your fourth important foundation is as your business starts to grow, then it is investing in specialized training. It's so important to do that, because if you're not willing to invest in your business, then you are going to be struggling in the process. So my question is, how much money is it costing you to not create the foundations? How much money is it costing you to DIY things when you could very easily invest in the right areas with the right experts to shorten your learning curve and get up and running so much faster? And how much time are you posting random content hoping something sticks versus having your solid strategy in that's already created, so you can then make tweaks and know what works and know what know what works and know what you need to adjust. So with that, how much money have you not made because you don't have your foundations and you can't figure it out? Simple math, if you do $2,000 a month that you've not made over 3, 6 to 12 months, that becomes a lot of money when you're not making much progress. So do the math and tell me what it's not worth for you to have your foundations set up. So with that, as I said, you have got 25 minutes. I fly through things pretty quick. If you want the show notes for this episode, then drop the word foundations in the chat and I will send them to you along with the show notes. I always put the video replay because I cover things in the video that aren't necessarily in the show notes, but that's the goal of show notes. It's designed to give you the quick and dirty on that. So you're welcome to drop it in the chat. I have had people DM me. They don't want to be online, and I totally understand if you're a little bit more introverted and you don't want to be commenting live. Totally get it. I also know I get emails and I get DMs that people say, I can't be there live, but by gosh, I'm going to watch the replay. So if you want the foundations, drop the word foundations. Now, if you know that you've done the work and we're already getting ready to head into September, can you believe it? 2023 is going to be very quickly approaching. So if you say, Joyce, I've already got my foundations in place, but I want to finish the year strong, what I have created, and this is a freebie, by the way. In fact, this my post on this went viral on Pinterest, which was crazy around the first of the year. Apparently, people like planning. So with that, if you want my 90-day planning guide, then stats on short-term goals. If you only set short-term goals, there's about a 40% chance you're going to achieve them. Stats show if you set long-term goals, there's a 60% chance you're going to achieve them. But if you have a combination of short-term and long-term goals, then you have a much higher percentage of achieving them. The other thing is understanding how your mind works when it comes to the goals process. Because if you're creating goals for things that you already know how to do, spoiler alert, that is not a goal. That would be called an action item on your list. So with that, the 90-day process, I have the workbook. I also have the live video. Not only does it take you through that short-term and long-term visioning, but it also gives you hints on how your reticular activating system works and how there are some mental tools that you can apply. And this is not law of attraction. This is science, cognitive science, but how you can use that so you can actually achieve bolder goals without becoming overwhelmed with comfort zones. So with that, like I said, be sure and drop the word foundations if you want the show notes. And otherwise, I will see you next